I want to ask you something. How many self-help books have you read? How many courses have you taken? How many therapy sessions have you been to? Journaling prompts? How many podcast episodes? How many breakthrough moments where you finally understood exactly why you do the thing you keep doing? You know your attachment style, you know your Enneagram number. You can probably trace the exact childhood experience that wired you to overgive or overfunction or abandon yourself the moment someone else needs something, you know? And yet you still do it. And it's not because you haven't done enough work or because your faith isn't strong enough or even that your willpower is too weak, because knowledge alone cannot reach the layer where the real change happens. And today I am going to tell you exactly what that layer is, why it's running your behavior beneath everything you consciously know and believe, and why your path back to yourself has to be specific to how you are wired. It can't be generic or borrowed, and it can't be designed for someone else's drift pattern. So stay right here. This is the episode that makes everything make sense. Let me start with something that might be the most freeing thing I've ever said on this channel. The reason you keep doing the thing you know you shouldn't do is not a character flaw in you, and it's not evidence that you are beyond help or too far gone or even fundamentally broken in some way. It is neuroscience. Here's what's happening. This is my favorite part. Your brain has two primary operating systems. It has the conscious mind, the one that, understands your attachment style and your Enneagram and why you drift. That part is articulate, it's rational, and it genuinely wants to change. And then there's the subconscious mind, which is running approximately 95% of your behavior. 95%. So the subconscious mind is not interested in your insights. It is not moved by your breakthrough moments. It doesn't update itself because you read a good book or you had a powerful therapy session or finally understood the root of the pattern. It updates through repetition, through embodied experience, through what your nervous system has practiced so many times it becomes automatic, through beliefs that were absorbed so early and reinforced so consistently that they now run like background software, quietly, constantly, beneath everything you consciously think and feel and decide. This is why you can now know the truth and still not live from it. Your conscious mind knows you're worthy of rest, but your subconscious mind has been running the program that says your worth is tied to your output for 30 years. One insight, even a profound one, does not overwrite 30 years of practice belief. This is not hopeless, but it's actually the most hopeful thing I can tell you, because once you understand what layer needs to be reached, you can stop doing the things that don't reach it and start doing the things that do. Three things work together, and they have to work together. Pulling on just one thread alone is why most approaches produce temporary results that eventually revert. So the first is disputing the belief directly. This is where REBT comes in, rational emotive behavior therapy. The framework I'm certified in and the one I use personally. So the subconscious belief has to be identified, named, and actively disputed, not just acknowledged, disputed, challenged, and replaced with an effective new belief that is both true and livable. Now, this is different from positive affirmations because affirmations sit on top of the old belief without displacing it. Dispute actually excavates the root. It asks, is this belief actually true? What's the evidence for it? What's the evidence against it? What would I tell someone I love who was running this belief? What's the more accurate thing I could tell myself instead? That process, if it's done consistently and if it's done with specific beliefs, not just vague ones, it reaches the subconscious in a way that reading about the belief never does. The second is nervous system regulation, because the subconscious belief isn't just a thought, it lives in your body. And it's why your jaw clenches before you even consciously register that you're stressed. It's why your shoulders are up by your ears in a meeting before you've had a conscious thought about being threatened. Let me drop my shoulders. It's why rest feels dangerous, even when you know intellectually that you need it. The nervous system has to experience safety physically, repeatedly, before it updates its threat assessment. You can't think your way to a regulated nervous system. You have to practice your way there. Breath, movement, somatic practices, environment design, repetition over time. The third is identity anchoring. This is the foundation underneath everything else, because when your identity is anchored in who God says you are and not in your output, not in your roles, not in how well you perform or how much you give or how capable you appear, the subconscious belief system has a new foundation to build on. Because here's what I've seen in 20 years of this work. Women who do the belief work and the nervous system work without the identity anchor tend to cycle. So they'll make progress, they'll drift, make progress, drift. You see what I'm saying? Because the subconscious keeps reaching for the old foundation, the one built on worth tied to performance. Because there's nothing solid enough underneath to hold the new beliefs in place. God anchored identity is the foundation. So REBT is the tool that disputes the old beliefs, and nervous system regulation is what makes the new beliefs feel safe enough to actually live from. So all three together, that's the missing layer. Because even the right approach applied the wrong way for how you're specifically wired will underperform. Here's what I mean by that. A high capacity woman who is an anchor type, steady, dependable, the one everyone leans on, she drifts through over functioning. She adds weight because she always has. So her subconscious belief is often something like, I am responsible for holding everything together. The nervous system practice she needs most is learning to receive support rather than always providing it. And the identity work she needs is separating her worth from her reliability. So a high capacity woman who is a seeker type drifts through consuming. She reads everything, takes every course, listens to every podcast, and her subconscious belief is often the answer is in the next thing. I haven't found it yet. The practice she needs most is stillness. It's not more information. And her nervous system actually dysregulates from overstimulation. More input makes it worse, not better. So her identity work is about trusting what she already knows instead of constantly searching for more. Do you see the problem with giving the same wellness protocol to both of those women? The anchor needs to receive more and produce less. And giving her a productivity-based morning routine, even a gentle one, reinforces the very pattern she's trying to break. The seeker needs to consume less and sit more. So giving her another framework to study, even a brilliant one, feeds the very drift she's trying to interrupt. So generic wellness isn't wrong. It's just not specific enough to be genuinely transformative for women who drift in highly specific ways. So this is why high capacity women in particular feel like they've tried everything and nothing sticks. It's not that nothing works. It's that what they've tried wasn't designed for how they specifically drift. And that specificity is what the rhythm type framework provides. And it's why the quiz, which identifies your specific type, it's not just a fun personality exercise. It's a diagnostics tool, and it tells you which layer needs the most attention, which beliefs are most likely running your behavior beneath conscious awareness, and which practices are most likely to actually reach the level where real change happens. Let me give you a real picture of each type's specific drift and what their specific return actually requires. So not a description of who they are. You met all 6 types in my intro video, but the mechanism, the belief underneath the drift, the practice that actually reaches it. The anchor, the belief most likely running beneath her drift. If I stop holding things together, they will fall apart and it will be my fault. This belief is so deeply wired that rest itself feels like abandonment. Her nervous system reads stopping as a threat to the people she loves. Her return path requires two things specifically. First, evidence that things do not actually fall apart when she rests. This has to be experienced, not just believed intellectually. She has to actually stop and watch nothing catastrophic happen repeatedly until her nervous system updates. Second, receiving support without guilt, actively practicing being held instead of always holding. This feels profoundly uncomfortable for her at first, and that discomfort is not a sign she's doing it wrong. It's just the old belief being disputed in real time. The REBT belief she needs to dispute most is my value to the people I love is directly tied to how much I hold for them. The nurturer, the belief most likely running beneath her drift. My needs matter less than everyone else's. Putting myself first is selfish. This belief is often theological in its roots because she absorbed somewhere along the way that self-sacrifice is the highest form of love. And there is truth in that, but she took it past the place where it was sustainable and into the place where it became self-erasure. So her return path requires learning to receive without guilt and to say no without explaining herself. Her nervous system has been conditioned to feel safe only when she's giving. And stopping the giving triggers anxiety because it's not because something is wrong, but because her baseline of safety was built on being needed. She has to practice being valued outside of what she provides. The REBT belief she needs to dispute most is if I stop giving so much, people will leave or stop loving me. The seeker, the belief most likely running beneath her drift. I don't know enough yet to act. When I find the right information, I will be ready. This belief masquerades as wisdom. It sounds like discernment, but it's actually a sophisticated form of avoidance, using the pursuit of knowledge as a buffer against the vulnerability of actually doing the thing and risking failure. Her return path requires structured stillness and committed action before she feels ready. Her nervous system is dysregulated by too much input, the very thing she reaches for when she's off rhythm, because that makes it worse. She needs less information and more presence. One book finished instead of 10 started. One course completed instead of 7 in progress. And the REBT belief she needs to dispute most. Acting before I feel fully prepared means I will fail, and that failure will define me. Oh, the visionary, the belief most likely running beneath her drift. The vision is so important that everything else, my body, my rest, my present life, can wait. This belief is the reason visionaries are so often physically depleted. They genuinely believe the calling justifies the cost to the vessel. They're not wrong about the importance of the vision. They are wrong about the vessel being optional. So her return path requires grounding practices that bring her out of her head and into her body. Movement, physical sensation, being present in her actual environment on her actual Tuesday instead of always living 3 steps ahead. And her nervous system has often been in a low-grade state of urgency for so long that stillness feels like stagnation, and she has to practice trusting that slowing down is not falling behind. The REBT belief she needs to dispute most. If I slow down and take care of my body, I will lose the vision or fall behind on the calling. The catalyst, the belief most likely running beneath her drift is, if I'm not moving, I'm not contributing. Rest is for people who aren't called to do what I'm called to. This belief is the one that makes her crashes so dramatic. She runs until her body forces a stop, not because she doesn't value rest. Intellectually, she might even teach about it, but because her subconscious has equated stillness with irrelevance, or with falling behind, with letting the fire go out, her return path requires scheduled rest that is non-negotiable and protected before she crashes, not after. Her nervous system has to learn that stopping by choice feels different from stopping because she collapsed. One is regulation, The other is depletion, and she has to practice the first so she never has to keep living the second. The REBT belief she needs to dispute most. My value and impact are determined by how much I produce and how fast I move. The rebuilder. The belief most likely running beneath her drift. My pace is a problem. Everyone else is further along and I'm falling behind because something is wrong with how I'm built. This belief is the cruelest one because it turns her greatest strength, her depth, her thoroughness, her foundation building into evidence of her own inadequacy. And she looks at the catalyst launching boldly or the visionary moving fast, and she concludes she must be doing something wrong. Her return path requires deep affirmation of her pace as design and not a deficiency, and she needs evidence, real specific evidence that the foundation she builds slowly is more durable than what gets built fast. Her nervous system calms when she has a clear structure and a long enough timeline. So urgency dysregulates her, patience with herself regulates her. And the REBT belief she needs to dispute most is my slowness is evidence that I am not capable enough or called enough to do what I feel pulled toward. Everything, but let me be specific about what everything actually means. She stops adding shame to the drift. This is the first shift, and it's really the most immediate. When she knows her type, she understands that the drift isn't random. It isn't evidence of weakness or lack of faith or insufficient willpower. It's her specific pattern doing what her specific pattern does under pressure. She can name it, she can see it coming. She can sometimes catch it before it's fully underway. And because she can name it without shame, she can address it without the additional weight of self-condemnation, which, as we talked about in episode 7, is one of the most dysregulating experiences a nervous system can have. Shame makes everything worse. Recognition without shame makes recovery more possible, and she stops applying the wrong solutions. This is the second shift. The seeker stops buying more courses when she's drifting and starts sitting in stillness instead. The anchor stops pushing harder when she's depleted and she starts asking for help instead. The catalyst stops white knuckling through exhaustion and starts protecting rest before the crash instead. Same woman, same life, different response to the drift. And because now she knows what the drift actually needs instead of what she's always reached for, she returns faster. And this is the long game. So the drift doesn't disappear. High capacity women will always have seasons of pressure. Life will always bring weight. The goal is not to never drift. The goal is to recognize it sooner and return more efficiently. So every time she recognizes the pattern and chooses the type-specific return practice instead of the default coping mechanism, she's literally rewiring the subconscious, replacing the old practiced response with a new one and building a new neural pathway, making the return feel more natural and the drift feel less catastrophic. Over time, the cycles become shorter, the crashes become less dramatic, the distance between who she is and how she's living gets smaller, and that's what rhythm feels like. It's not the absence of pressure, it's just a shorter gap between drift and return. That's what I'm building toward for myself and for every woman I serve. The quiz, always the quiz first, because everything I've talked about today, the type-specific belief work, the nervous system practices designed for your drift pattern, the identity anchoring that fits how you're wired, none of it can really be applied specifically until you know your type. So the quiz takes 3 minutes, it's free, and it'll give you more specific, actionable clarity about why you drift and how you come back than most things you've spent hours and money on. And this isn't magic, but it's specific, and specific is what changes things when generic hasn't. So after the quiz, there is an invitation for a masterclass, and you'll find all the links to other deeper practices and whatever calls to you after you take the quiz, after you look at the masterclass. There are other invitations on whatever resonates with you. And I hope to see you there. Stay on beat. Bye.